Today on Technado, we're going to be talking with Yan Zhu, the CSO of Brave. We're also going to be looking at the .org domain takeover and talk about HackerOne paying a bug bounty on their own website. That's all coming up on Technado, starting right now. Hello and welcome to Technado. I'm your host, Peter Van Rysdam, joined, as always, by Justin Dennison. Justin, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Peter. Thanks for introducing me first. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy. Must be the given time of year.
You're right there, so I thought I'd do it first.
I'm always right here.
Yeah, I know. Well, I see Don first when I turn. And Don Pizzette, how are you?
Hey, I am just glad to be a part of this professionally produced podcast that features journalistic excellence each week.
Yes, we should take a moment in this time after the Thanksgiving holiday and leading up to the rest of the holiday season to say thank you to Brad, our producer. Thank you to Megan Brewster, who is doing our scheduling, because she's doing an amazing job. We have an amazing guest today. We have Yan Zhu, who is the CSO at Brave Software. They make the Brave browser, but if you're familiar with her story at all, it's pretty incredible. Went to MIT's, worked at Yahoo, all over the Valley, done work with EFF and some great organizations, WC3, I think. So we'll be talking with her in a little bit about what makes the Brave browser unique, but great job on the scheduling work. It's really some bang-up guests in the last couple of weeks.
I was being funny, and then you went all serious. Like, those are things we actually have to be thankful for.
Yeah. They make us look good as best they can.
They do. There's only so much they can do.
Yep.
A lot of Photoshop. Well, you can't Photoshop video.
No, you can't,
Yeah.
but you can do.
Adobe Premiere filters.
Yeah, you get a lot of filters.
Is that why I look like a cat?
My skin is radiant. Yeah, my skin is
That's because you're always... Right. Anyway, carry on.
So before that, though, we do have the news to get to, and really, we kind of, I won't say took the Thanksgiving week off, but we took it off from news. We went to the fun articles that week, so we do have a backlog of amazing stories.
Of not fun articles.
Yeah, normally, if we do like 10 articles, 5 of them are good, and the other 5 are just filling space. This week, it is like 10 bang-up articles, top to bottom.
You are setting weird expectations.
Yeah, so let's get started with the first one. Obviously, has to be amazing, and it is from lifehacker.com. You can now install Windows 10 on your 16-inch MacBook Pro. And it's funny because I know someone who's already done that. It seems like if you're not happy with High Sierra, we're not even on High Sierra now. We're on
Mojave.
Catalina.
Catalina.
Well, I was like, what's the other one people are
You're still on
angry
Mojave,
with?
right? Have you gone Catalina?
I think I'm on regular old Sierra, aren't I?
Oh, you're still...
No, that
way
went
back
to Sierra, then Mojave, then High Sierra, then Catalina.
Right.
Okay, I'm right before High Sierra.
Wow, so you're way back there. I'll have to get in a DeLorean and go look at your laptop.
Well, I like to use external monitors.
Or just some kind of security exploit we can use.
I'm on Sierra.
Well, running Windows 10 on a MacBook is not something new. You've been able to do this for a long time using Boot Camp. But when the 16-inch MacBook came out this year featuring the Not Sucky keyboard that we talked about 2 weeks ago, they did not release Boot Camp drivers for it right away. And there were rumors circulating that Apple might finally stop supporting Boot Camp. A lot of people, when they switched to a Mac, a big challenge they had was they would have all these Windows apps they needed to run, and Boot Camp kind of gave them a way to get around that. But thanks to virtualization and more people creating Mac versions of software and web-based, there's been less and less demand for Boot Camp. So there were rumors that they were going to stop it, but they didn't. They did actually just the other day. Actually, it's been about a week and a half now since they released the updated Boot Camp drivers for that. Now, you don't have to do anything on your laptop. When you run the Boot Camp wizard, it'll actually download all the latest drivers at that time. And so the newest drivers are out for that 16-inch MacBook, and you can fire up Boot Camp. And remember, with Boot Camp, you're not replacing macOS. You're doing a dual boot situation. So macOS is still there, and Windows runs in a small part of that partition.
By the way, went and put my hands on one of these 16-inch MacBooks. Physical escape key. Keyboard feels fantastic.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Justin, seal of approval?
It does. I mean, still got the touch bar, but whatever. I have a physical escape key, and the keyboard actually has key travel. I just...
How much plasma do you have to sell to
So
afford this
I've been working on a spreadsheet
Okay.
to determine plasma and the number of aluminum cans that I have to collect
Mhm.
to sell back to the recyclers to buy one of these.
Well, your current laptop is aluminum, right? You can recycle that too.
Yeah, I suspect the sticker on the
you-
back of it that's like an item code that says this belongs to
Oh,
not
okay.
Justin. Might be a tip up.
Like I said, the offer still stands, $25 per foot rub. So that'll get you there.
Oh, you're rubbing my feet. You'd give me
Yeah,
$25?
giving you
It's one of those
it's a
things
thing.
that-
It's a thing.
Then you'll just feel dirty.
All right. Well, so that's exciting. So Justin, if you do get this, are you going to put Boot Camp on there?
I might. I mean, the Windows 10 has come a long way. There's times that people go, "Hey, what's the development experience like on Windows?" I don't know. I haven't used it in a long time, so
I used to
might
use-
give it a.
I used to use Parallels. Is that's a virtual?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not like
So
this where it's a
The
physical.
problem with Boot Camp is you have to partition your disk, right? So you're actually setting aside a block of your hard drive to make it exclusively available for Boot Camp.
And you can't share files.
Well, you can share
Across them.
files, sort of, but only one operating system's running at a time. So if you really want to share files, now you got to get like an NTFS driver for Mac or now an AFS driver for Windows. And that's all kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
So virtual machines like in Parallels or VMware Fusion, they're so much easier because you can be running Mac OS and now you're running Windows on top of it and you can easily exchange stuff. So that's why I think a lot of people don't bother with Boot Camp anymore. And Parallels is pretty cheap. It's like $50 or something. Yeah. It's come down quite a bit.
All right, let's head over now to our next story over on Mashable.com. Powerful Internet Authority says it's powerless to stop billion-dollar .org takeover. So, if I'm understanding this right, which I think I am, they're basically the people in charge of the .org top-level domain are selling it or selling that authority.
Selling, sold. This is
Sold.
already done.
Done.
Yeah, this is a done
Can't
deal.
even stop it.
So
Powerless.
a lot of controversy on this one. A little bit of kind of like a hostile takeover in a way, and that nobody could stop it. About a year ago, ICANN, the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, who's in charge of the whole DNS registry kind of thing, the hierarchy, they have a simple responsibility, and that is to make sure that DNS resolution works. And then they coordinate with a number of registrars to handle all the top-level domains. And so a registrar called the PIR, which I believe is Public Internet Registry, is that what that stands for? I believe.
Public Interest Registry.
Public Interest Registry. They were a nonprofit that controlled the .org TLD. And so they would report to ICANN, but ICANN didn't actually control them. So as long as they made it where .org domains would resolve, then they were upholding their requirements. Now, ICANN had a limit on the rate that PIR could charge, and it was $10 per year per domain. And earlier in the year, they removed that limit. So now PIR could charge whatever they want. Well, now a private equity firm comes along and scoops up PIR for about 1.3 billion.
1.35
Or
or
1.135.
Yeah, 1.135.
I mean, at that point, we're splitting
Yeah.
hairs.
Yeah, so a hair over $1 billion. They've acquired it. So now this private equity company, in other words, a for-profit company, owns .org and can charge whatever they want for the domains. And a lot of people are unhappy about that. And it's all been done in the public eye, and no one was able to stop it.
So, reading through this article, it seems like several people involved with many of these organizations, like, oh, well, I worked here, and then he worked here, and then I worked over here with him, and so they knew each other, right?
Oh, yeah.
What is the big issue here? Because, like, if I have a bunch of .orgs, right, I buy this company, what keeps them from just leaving? Like, I don't understand what's the play there, or is it the fact that this is a precedence for the other things being sold off?
Well, so the deal here is that in the past, most people assumed that .org was only available to nonprofit organizations. And that was because if you look at websites that use .org, like EFF.org and stuff, like they were generally nonprofit or public interest companies and so on. But the reality was anybody could buy .org. Hell, I bought itprotv.org one day.
Yeah, it's like EDU is one of the only ones that you have to.
Or .gov?
Yeah, and the EDU one, their checks on that are so basic that anybody could really buy one.
Like
if they wanted.
.ao, you have to be a jerk.
So you could buy .org if you wanted and start selling, and making a profit and all that stuff all you wanted. So people had this perceived innocence around it. And the fact that PIR ran it and they were nonprofit, that meant they weren't price gouging. And so there was like this wholesome feeling wrapped around .org. And that's now gone because, private equity firms are not warm and cuddly, and they're looking to get a return on their investment. If they invested $1 billion, they're looking to get $2 billion out of the investment, or probably more, right? And I'm not saying private equity is evil or anything. It's just they make money. That's why they exist. So that's the real scuffle here. Top-level domains have been for sale for a long time, right? Google owns several. You've got Amazon owns. Didn't they buy .amazon? Wasn't there a big scuffle over that one? When they announced the new TLDs, when they did like .museum and .info and stuff.
Several of them belong to Brazil.
Brazil was all pissed off about it.
About Amazon?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And I mean, they don't like the fact that Amazon is called Amazon anyway.
Were they mad that they also, Amazon calls their tablet the Fire? They're like, no, we are the only ones that can have
I didn't think about
Fire
that,
in the
but,
Amazon.
I always wondered why they picked Amazon as a name. I never read the history. Because they used to just sell books.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, Amazon is full of trees.
Oh,
books
that
are made
makes
of paper. Is this, you're saying you kill the Amazon? Is that?
It's our fault.
Or maybe they just build giant trees out of the books, and that's what's surrounding Bezos' house.
It's a circle of life.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. So anyhow, a lot of people are looking at this as a shady transaction, that the wholesome.org is no longer that way. Somebody came out, a couple of people that were a part of ICANN came out and said, look, let's say they did something crazy like jacked up rates 6 times. You'd go from $10 a year to $60 a year. That's not a big deal. Some people came out and said, well, what if I own 10,000 domains? And the answer to that is, well, then you're a domain squatter.
And
so screw you.
We hate you.
So,
well, that's the concern for me, is not the person that says, oh, well, I guess I'm not going to buy a .org now. But if you have a .org and that's what your company's based around, and you've got that printed on every single thing you have and every ad you have, and everyone knows your company by that, and all of a sudden they raise the renewal rate by 100 times. You're kind of handcuffed to your domain there, because that's a lot of money to change for your business from a branding perspective.
which could happen with any TLD. So .org is really the only one that's surprising.
All right. Well, let's switch gears now over to our next article at zdnet.com. HPE tells users to patch SSDs to prevent failure after 32,768 hours of operation. The HPE SAS SSD users need to install a critical firmware patch, or they will lose their SSDs, including their data. And I actually originally saw this on Reddit in a sysadmin sub, where someone said, "Hey, this happened to me, and we lost all of our stuff." So this is something that's real and is definitely affecting people. But first question I had for you, Don, is why is it 32,768 hours? And it made total sense once you said it.
This is one of these interesting things where to somebody who's involved in like binary numbers or just like the work I've done in databases is where I've got it. 32,768 is an important number. But to the average man on the street, it doesn't really mean anything, right? But Justin, you know why it's significant, right?
It's. I tell you what, Don. If you'd asked me any other time, but no, it's gone.
Man,
it's gone.
Now you put the pressure
Mr.
on
Math
it.
over
It's
here.
gone.
Hey, man on the
So
street.
32,768 is the smallest number you can write in 16 bits. So
I wanted to say 32 bits.
a 15-bit number would go to 32,767 before you ran out of bits to write it and have to go to 16-bit. So while HP hasn't specifically said it, it's pretty obvious like they were doing something that relied on a counter, and they were only giving it 15 bits to store that counter in. Unfortunately, this counter was some kind of health check for the drive. And so as that drive would run, it was keeping track of how many hours it had been running. It's probably part of some health reporting or whatever that it was doing. And as soon as it hit 32,768 hours, it was no longer able to store that. And so their default mode of, instead of saying, well, I guess everything's okay, is it said, nope, I guess everything is dead. And
We should delete everything.
And that's the weird part, is it doesn't delete everything. It just stops working. And so technically the data is still there, but there is no way to get to it. HP just says that's it. Or HPE says you can't get to it. Now, two things that I want to point out here is one, that there's no way to get past this, but there is a fix, right? So there's a firmware update. If you haven't hit 32,768 hours yet, You can apply the firmware update. They've published a list of drives that are affected. The second thing is, this is HPE, and these are SAS drives, serial attached SCSI. So if you're worried about your laptop or your desktop, don't be. HPE or their enterprise products, these would be in servers. So if you've got like HP ProLiant servers, then you may well have drives that are affected by this. But desktops, laptops, not a problem, not something to worry about.
And for those of you doing the math at home or driving, trying to do the math, that's 1,365 days or 3.74 years. So these would be, if you had that drive running there and running smooth and perfect for 3.73 years.
If you're listening to this and you got an hour left to do that firmware update, go ahead and hit pause. We won't feel bad.
Drive fast.
Go figure it out and come on back. We got some more stuff for you.
You're like, when did I buy that?
You know what really stinks is there's like a list of 15 drives that they've set the firmware release date for December 9th, which is well, I think it'll probably be the day this podcast rolls out, right? We're filming a little ahead. So,
put it out yesterday.
Imagine if you know your drive is affected, but the firmware update's not out yet. You have to think, like, am I coming up on my 32,768 hours? I don't know. And now I got to wait 4 more days. It's going to be a crappy 4 days.
Yeah, it is.
Could you turn it off?
Well, yeah, but if it's your server,
well,
because this is not a laptop.
That's true. Because it's hours that it's running, not hours that.
Right.
Okay.
And so you got to roll the dice and just go.
Oh man, I think I'd be on support line and be like, "Yo, so seriously, like email that on over. We gonna have to figure it out."
And if you think about, like, people probably have hot spares in their arrays, but the timer's running even though it's the spare. So you're hosed. Like, all your drives die simultaneously.
Can you run something on your drive to see how many hours it's been running?
Probably. There's probably some firmware utility that'll do that.
I would hope so, because otherwise, I'd be like, you never know. Is it today, tomorrow? Nope, it was yesterday. Sorry.
If you're on the HP Insight Manager, that thing shows you all sorts of data about your ProLiant servers. So, like, it would probably report back. Or
the amount of information you can get from like server level hardware and stuff is pretty crazy.
Yeah. All right. So check and check and patch.
Yeah.
On Monday.
Trust but verify.
Yeah, exactly. All right, our next article is over on techrepublic.com. The 20 fastest rising and sharpest declining tech skills of the past 5 years. Docker saw the most significant percentage increase, while Clojure. Yeah, I want to make sure I'm saying that.
Or
with
Clojure.
It's not with an S. Saw the greatest decline. Indeed, hiring lab found. So, like, these are, if this is Indeed looking at it, these are skills related to what people are looking for in the workforce.
Right. And, we won't go over the whole list because it's kind of long, but I thought it was kind of neat, the top 5 fastest growing skills. And this is all based on like job postings and other things that are out there. Docker saw a 4,162% increase, which is pretty impressive. IoT in general was second place. Ansible was third. Kafka was fourth, which I was kind of surprised to see. And then Azure was fifth, which makes sense because Azure's been making huge gains on AWS. So kind of neat to see those top 5. Justin, anything weird jump out at you?
Yeah. So Tableau, and just because like I know it's used and I've seen it before, but I wouldn't have expected it to have almost a 3 times 300% growth.
Well, it's
and I'm also surprised that machine learning is not number 1.
Get quoted in all the marketing.
Yeah,
AI and machine learning.
I will say I would be very careful because these are percentages. So sometimes if you already have a large set like Clojure, if it's a small set of individuals, a small change may result in a large percent change, as described by that. So
on what I was trying to say, on August 1st, 2019, Salesforce acquired Tableau.
Yeah.
So I wonder, I guess that wouldn't have had time to really affect this.
Interesting about the sharpest declining ones, like Clojure, EJB, Servlet, JSP, and then Solaris was number 5.
I was surprised.
And then Struts was number 6. Those are all Java technologies. Seems like maybe there's a common thread. Who knows?
Flash. I figured Java would have dropped. I mean, not Java. Solaris would have dropped off years ago because Oracle really has not paid it much attention. but we're just now seeing that.
Oh, wait a minute. They own Solaris?
Oh, yeah, because they bought Sun.
Oh, yeah.
And so they own
So
Solaris.
what you're telling me is the top 6 have some way have a tie back to Oracle.
Yeah.
Of the sharpest declining.
The bottom 6.
Yeah. Well, of the sharpest declining.
And, I remember way back when I was in college, everybody wanted to do the Java track because that was the up-and-coming enterprise language. Like, if I'm going to go out and get a job, I need to know Java. But it didn't take all that long for people to realize that Java is really a pain. And now everybody's switched to these web apps that don't require Java, and it's a dying skill.
So would you say if you're looking at this list and your job involves maintaining one of these systems on the sharpest declining, you should maybe get some training in the rising ones?
Maybe, but I mean, if
COBOL.
you're a COBOL developer these days, you can make some good money.
Listen.
Hang in there.
Maybe you're
Flash
one of the
developer.
5 people who still knows struts.
Yeah.
And you could have patched that Equifax issue, and see, you would have commanded your price. I mean,
You
they
might
would
be
have paid you.
unemployed for the next 20 years, but then all of a sudden you'll be able to command top dollar.
Yep, and it'll be worth all the opportunity cost.
Some of these look just made up to me.
Like what?
Cocoa?
That is the UI framework for Mac.
Nope, that is a Gorilla.
There was the Tandy Cocoa also, which had its own. Like, it was the foundation of like Commodore Computer.
Oh.
They're like way
For some
old
reason, I
school.
was still on Gorilla. I was like, "There's another Gorilla named Tandy Coco."
Yeah.
But sorry,
Windows XP was listed. How is that a
Yeah.
skill?
I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like
All
that'd be
right. Well,
pretty
they might as well put
transferable.
Internet Explorer on there.
Yeah. By the way, we're not playing Buzzword Bingo today, but we really should have been because we've got machine learning is on.
I think we
on
had
the list as
blackout
number
just
10.
on this article.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. All right. I scribbled in the whole page. All right. Let's head over now to our next article from Hackaday.com. Raspberry Pi 4 HDMI is jamming its own Wi-Fi. And now this is not the first issue we've seen with the Raspberry Pi 4. What was the other one we
The
had?
first one was that when you hooked a USB charger up to it, sometimes the charger would see it as an audio device and not provide power.
Power, yeah. So this, I mean, again, we're talking about the ports and the inputs basically for it. So are they just too close to one another where it's causing interference?
What they found was that if you set the Raspberry Pi to have a certain resolution, which I think was like
2560 by 1440.
All right, which was common on some of those Dell ultra-sharp monitors and stuff, that if you set the resolution to 2560 by 1440, it would generate a RF or frequency modulation or whatever at just the right frequency to disrupt the HDMI signal. And so, I mean,
Or the Wi-Fi.
not the HDMI, the Wi-Fi, right. So the HDMI chip would then begin interfering with the Wi-Fi and you'd lose network connectivity. You switch to a different resolution and all of a sudden you're on the network again. So fortunately, they were able to fix this with a software update, which they've pushed out in Raspbian and a few other ways. But if you have been experiencing some flaky Wi-Fi on your Raspberry Pi and you've been running at that resolution, then that would likely be the culprit.
I tell you what, is one of the most infuriating types of issue. You're like, well, hold on, why is the Wi-Fi going out? And you're looking at, is my network manager being janky? Oh, well, let me plug this in. I rebooted it 7,000 times, and then, well, it's working now, but man, my monitor looks weird. Let me fix that resolution. Wi-Fi's down again.
An endless loop.
Yeah.
Is there, you can hardwire internet to, well, I guess you could use a USB Ethernet adapter.
It has an Ethernet jack on it.
It does that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
So you got options, but still, if you're trying to use it as a wireless device and it's hooked up to a monitor, then you got a big problem. But I think, like Justin really hit the nail on the head, that if it's an intermittent issue, it's only when you're connected to this one monitor. Like, that's really hard to troubleshoot and figure out.
By the way, if you have a monitor that's running 2560 by 1440, is a Raspberry Pi 4 the device that you plug up to it?
Well, we were just in a situation where we saw they were using Raspberries like behind the TVs to run different, marketing things.
Oh, yeah, I guess, yeah.
I mean, there could
Tableau, you could actually be showing your Tableau report.
There
Yep,
you go.
Yeah.
On the,
Yeah, your Cocoa.
Yep. Using Clojure.
Clojure.
Java.
Yay.
Clojure? I know that's a word too.
Randy Couture.
Oh,
What?
sorry. All right. Let's head over to our next article on CNBC.com, where we get all of our tech news. Amazon's cloud business bombards the market with dozens of new features as it looks to preserve its lead. You were mentioning before Azure making big leaps, but Amazon's not going to take that lying down.
Yep, AWS's reInvent conference was again super inconveniently scheduled right alongside Thanksgiving. I don't know why they do that. It's like a nightmare to travel to.
The Venetian is much cheaper that week to rent out.
That's why we don't go to reInvent. But the conference happened, and they announced a ton of new stuff. I don't know if either of you guys have logged into the AWS console recently and pulled down that services list. They have so many services.
I think it said 174 or something like that.
They're up to 175 services now. And at reInvent, they announced, hang on, it's in the article. I got to find it here. They announced several new services, 28 new services launched at reInvent this year, 23 of which were made during Andy's keynote. So in the keynote speech alone, he announced 23 new features. I see two sides to this, right? So on one side, Amazon is moving really fast to adopt new features and make sure they can maintain control of the cloud market because they're getting a lot of competition from Azure. On the other side, like, damn, focus in on making some stuff really, really good. They're taking the shotgun approach and just hitting like every service possible.
Yeah, I mean the Graviton too. That's a new processor that they built in house that they're going to allow you. I was actually in the EC2 instance console today, and it now selects, hey, do you want an ARM or do you want, like, it pushes that up front. So that's kind of interesting. And they do have a managed Apache Cassandra, and if you've ever tried to set up a Cassandra cluster, you're like, cool, that's awesome. But there's some other things here that I'm not sure. I would be weary about using them right offhand.
Well, the fraud detector,
yeah,
I thought was really cool. So if you're running a web application and you need people to sign up for an account, well, Amazon has a ton of experience in dealing with fake accounts because tons of people are trying to set up Amazon accounts. And so what they've done is they've taken all the stuff they've learned about detecting fraudulent logins and made it a service where you can now leverage their API when somebody's signing up for an account and basically benefit from all the millions and millions and millions of transactions that Amazon does in a given day to identify fraudulent activity. I think that's really cool. So I'm not saying these aren't cool features. Some of them are really neat, but it's just there's so many. It's hard to stay on top of what's available and what isn't. But at least they're not like Google where they kill them off after 2 weeks.
This is true. They do stay around for a while, at least, to see, give them a good, the old college try, if you will. And some of these features were actually extensions to pre-existing things like SageMaker. SageMaker already existed, which was like make AI easy for everybody. But they started adding some additional things like a built-in IDE that just kind of drag and drop kind of feel. So that's pretty fun. By the way, if you haven't been playing Buzzword Bingo and you don't have your pen on you, I'm surprised. There's several that just came up right there.
Yeah.
So
this is not the week to
mainly because there's this wavelength. There's like 5G in there, cloud computing, and crazy stuff. Yeah, wavelength is one that I don't know if I would use ever for anything I do.
I didn't see a cryptocurrency one though.
I know.
We're going to talk about that.
Oh, good point. Yeah, we'll hit that one.
By the way, we're trying to come up with band names for our rock band competition here in the office, and my suggestion of Kenny 5G was knocked down.
Kenny 5G.
I also liked 50 Centos.
What?
That was another one I had.
So 50 Centos would probably your group. You have a lot of millennials in your group,
we do,
right?
Yeah.
They probably don't know who Kenny G is, but they know who 50 Cent is.
They do, yeah.
So
they might. They're in marketing. They might not know what Centos is.
Oh, good point.
So
hard to find a winner there.
Yeah,
but if it was the TikToks,
oh sure,
you mean Vine?
It's
Viscos.
just Vine.
Millennial Vine.
It's just Vine.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure someone was like, "All right, so Vine's dead.
It's longer.
We still got the Vine code base.
Yeah,
let's do some quick
China.
Let's do some tweaks. Let's rebrand it. Boom, TikTok.
I think China more said, "Hey, what's a way to get the information on all the new Americans?"
Yeah.
Oh, you can make a thing for them. Okay. There you go. All right, let's head over to the street now. Is that Jim Cramer's site? It is. All right. This article, Costco's Thanksgiving Day website crash cost it nearly $11 million. Here's one example of where it might have paid to physically line up in the wee dark hours of Thanksgiving to score a Black Friday deal. Now, why
No.
lining up?
Absolutely not.
All right. So Here in the United States, after Thanksgiving, we have Black Friday, which is the largest shopping day of the year. It's called Black Friday because a lot of retailers are in the red, in other words, negative earnings. And all of a sudden, on that day, people start spending their holiday money and they get into the black and become profitable.
I never knew that.
Big deal. Oh, that's why it's called Black
I thought it was because of all the bruises.
Yeah, the black eyes.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's because of the horrible, horrible shopping massacres that were perpetrated hundreds of years ago.
Yep.
Sure.
Or they became profitable in the black. So there's that. Now, this year there were several articles on it. I didn't pick most of them because they're kind of boring. Like less people showed up in person this year than ever before, I guess.
What happened to Cyber Monday, though? Isn't that
still happening?
Monday's still a big deal.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are starting their Black Friday deals early, and they're starting them online. And so why I didn't go to a single store all weekend. So, did some online shopping. But what I thought was really cool about this article is we hear about websites going down. And I always think, the first thing I think is, man, I'd hate to be one of their IT admins. Like, I bet they're working some late hours and you feel bad for them. But there is an actual dollar value attached to an outage. And going down on one of the busiest shopping days of the year costs you real money. In this case, it cost them about $11 million. And they were down for, I forget, it was like 8 hours or something. Oh, 16 hours. 16 hours. So, what does that work out to, math man? 800 grand an hour?
Ish. Yeah, roundabout.
So,
11,000 a minute.
So that's a lot of money. And so if you're ever talking to a CIO and saying, hey, we need this UPS or this generator, and you're trying to cost justify it, you can say, well, if you look at Costco here, it cost them $11 million to be down for 16 hours.
And do we know why it went down? Was this basically a denial of service from all the people?
Yeah, they just couldn't handle the load. They either hadn't made it to scale properly or had left some limits in place. You see that a lot with AWS, where people design it to scale, but they don't realize there's a 20 instance limit on their account and things.
You got to put in a support ticket to get those removed, and that's to safeguard you, to keep you from getting like a $30,000 bill because someone.
Right.
You accidentally pushed your keys to GitHub and someone's like, ooh, crypto mining. This is one of those things, the limits, but even then, you think it would take 16 hours? Like if I'm that type of customer, if I was using, let's say AWS, I would be paying for premier support, right? I think their top tier support is you get a response in an hour?
Yeah, but they were closed for the holiday.
Yeah.
Amazon closed.
I imagine, well, now that might be true, but I imagine, they were fully staffed, but it's Costco, right? So what they had to do is they had to show their ID card to tech support to get in the door. They had to describe the problem and show them the receipt.
Yeah. You had to buy bulk support.
So what's funny is some of the AWS services actually came out of Amazon going down very similar to this, and they did a cost analysis. And they said, no, we can't afford to be down because we lose... this was $11,000 a minute. I tell you what, $11,000, I'm like, we got to be up. We got to do it right now.
All of a sudden, that $50,000 generator or those extra servers that are turned off most of the year, all of a sudden that cost is negligible.
Yep, they could have got that at Sam's. I was not able to get my pallet of toilet paper, so very upsetting. But I did get a shop vac at the Home Depot.
I did get 200 gallons of Heinz ketchup.
Oh, yeah.
Gone
in the weekend.
With an electric pump.
Yeah.
And a water hose.
And with all the leftover turkey, that really, because it gets dry.
Yeah. And I put ketchup on my leftover turkey.
So a shop vac was your big Black Friday steal?
It was. $39.
What size?
Normally a 16 gallon.
Oh, that's not bad.
Normally
how many horses? Horsepower, by the way.
6.5, I think.
Man,
that's
got a lot of sucking power.
I'm gonna spill things just to clean them.
Yep. Make sure you take the filter out. It'll get wet and stink.
For the water.
Yeah,
that's what I heard. Yeah, I haven't put it together yet. All right. Next, let's head over to slashdot.org. He gave a cryptocurrency talk in North Korea. The U.S. arrested him.
Bum, bum, bum.
Dun dun dun. So is this like coming back through customs? He got arrested.
Yeah,
Man.
The New York Times. I linked the Slashdot article on this one instead of the New York Times one because
you could get to it.
Well, yeah, there was the paywall, right? So there was that, but also like the New York Times was framing the United States as being this criminal organization, which in reality, like this guy knowingly went to North Korea to give a talk. First off, he knew he wasn't supposed to go to North Korea. He got a visa to go to China, flew to China, and then flew to North Korea from there. So he kind of already knew it. But he was interviewed ahead of time, and somebody asked, isn't this going to violate sanctions? And the guy said, yeah, it is. And so he went over there knowing that. And now he comes back playing the game of, I didn't know. I was just giving a talk. I'm an enthusiast.
Except for the interview we have on tape with you saying you knew.
And his talk was very interesting topic here.
How
It was
to
about
launder
using.
money.
It was like how to use cryptocurrency to remove yourself from like the world's financial industry,
How to
which is
launder-
how sanctions work.
How to launder the money you gained through your state-sponsored hacking.
Yeah, he's part of Ethereum, right? He was part of the Ethereum Foundation.
Was he?
Yeah, I think so. American citizen works for Ethereum Foundation.
Okay, I knew he was a part of one of them.
Most of the conferences we go to are, San Francisco, Las Vegas. If everyone came across it was in Pyongyang or yeah, I can't even say that word now.
Pyongyang.
That place.
Pyongyang.
I
Pyongyang?
just feel like that's not the one. That's not the one for me.
So real quick, do I have to shave my beard if I ever go there?
You have to have one of the approved hairstyles if you live there. I think as a visitor.
Yeah, because Dennis Rodman, he
He didn't.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I wonder if it's like the interview though. Do you get to drive in a tank while you're there?
Yeah, but that didn't work out for them in the long run.
What do you think's going to happen to him? You think he's actually going to?
I would be shocked if he doesn't get jail time over this. Well, he's in jail right now.
Yeah.
So I guess we should clarify that. I don't think they're going to hit him up on treason or anything, but they should, at a minimum, sentence him for being incredibly
You
stupid.
should have to stay in one of the North Korea jails, though.
Yeah, because people survive that.
Yeah. And his kids should too, because that's
Yeah.
how that works.
Oh yeah, the whole
Yeah,
family.
the transgenerational jail sentences.
Well, so this guy is fairly young, right? How old
38?
is he?
36.
36.
I can't read.
But
LASIK.
fairly young, but old enough to know that what he was doing was dicey at best.
Yeah.
And you can't go and effectively commit a crime overseas. And it's not like Las Vegas, where what happens in Vegas stays. What happens in North Korea.
Which also is not true,
Yeah.
according to my record. No.
So he goes over there and he gives this talk, and then he even offers to set up a way to like transition money between North Korea and South Korea, and all these things are just in like blatant disregard of the international sanctions, and then comes back and the world is shocked that he gets arrested.
It was funny at the end of the Slashdot, the Emmanuel Goldstein, 2600 magazine editor, said he would not help a murderous dictator. He's just a typical hacker who loved adventure and technology.
Well, he certainly had technology and adventure on this one.
He did, and
He's a contributing writer for them.
yeah, no, it says the magazine's editor,
Yes, but I'm saying,
Mr. Griffith is.
so
Yeah, no, I was
defending
saying
him.
the quote at the end.
And I would argue that it's not a murderous dictator. I doubt he's murdered anybody. He's probably just like ordered.
Oh,
the
yeah.
murder of-
Wait a
I
minute,
think
wait a minute.
still is murder,
Yeah,
according
yeah.
to, well, that's American law. So I don't know.
Yeah. So anyhow, we'll see where that one goes. But it just goes to show like technology can be used for the forces of good, and it can be used for, well, even if you think it's the forces of good, if it's still illegal, you cannot do it without expecting to get arrested.
Pyongyang.
Good job.
All right, let's head over now to dataviper.io, and I apologize for making fun of your top-level domain earlier. Personal and social information of 1.2 billion people discovered in massive data leak. Personal and social information of 1.2 billion people discovered in the subheadline is the headline again.
Yeah, the website's
said
impressive.
that.
Like if you start to scroll down, the
Parallax.
title disappears. I don't really
Yeah.
understand, but anyhow, what they found here was something interesting, and it does open up a little bit of an area for a debate. So basically, what they found was an Elasticsearch. No, that was right. Elasticsearch database hosted in AWS that was wide open to the world. And when they looked at the database, what they found was 4 terabytes of data that contained personally identifiable information for roughly 4 billion people.
That's most of us.
And I think they de-anonymized it at some point, or not, they deduplicated it. And it actually ended up being about 1.2 billion people.
Oh.
And what they found was name, email address, hang on, they got the whole list here, company website, company industry, information about where you worked, website, a short biography of the people, like just all sorts of information about people stored in this wide open database that anybody on the planet could connect to and query against. And they tracked back where this information came from, and it looks like it came from 2 data aggregation companies. These are companies that collect data, either scraping it off of web pages or other places, and they put it all together to create a database of users with information that's in theory public. and then they turn around and sell it and do marketing stuff. It's kind of like Cambridge Analytica or somebody, yeah, Facebook, and this was data from more than one company. So they're not sure if these companies got hacked or if somebody actually bought the data from the companies, which would be legitimate, and then just irresponsibly threw it into this database. No one is sure exactly who owns that server, but it didn't belong to either of the companies whose data was hosted in there. So now there's this mystery of this massive information leak that's not really tied to any particular company.
Does Amazon not know who paid for that?
You would
space?
think, and I don't know if, because there's not a person reporting this as a crime, so I don't know if the FBI is going to investigate it or not. But if the FBI does, then they could go to Amazon and they could find out who spun up that instance, or it's not even an instance, right? Elasticsearch would be multiple instances, so they should be able to figure it out. But we just don't know right now. So
I mean, the amount of data that they had was, I mean, some of it was pretty crazy. Because he was talking about a phone number. It was like, it listed this phone number. I was like, that's not my phone number. And he said, I did a little bit of research, and I had a TV phone bundle 10 years ago and had a phone number that was I never actually used, and boom, that was the phone number. And so
find out things about yourself.
Yeah, he's like, I worked there? That's crazy.
So it shows that the data was accurate. And, these two companies, there was a PDL, which is People Data Labs, and the other one was Oxydata, the OxyClean spinoff.
I don't trust either of those companies.
And so Oxydata and PDL, it was all their data, but neither of them owned the server. Neither of them said that it was there, or at least didn't claim it. And so they're saying, hey, we didn't have a breach, but here's all their data.
Are they just saying that to get out of the GDPR fine? Or they're like,
maybe.
Crap, that is our data, but just say it's not because we have it backed up.
Bill, it says our name on it. Nope.
Can't do that. That used to happen I grew up in St. Augustine. The alligator farm's right around the corner. The alligators would get out, and they had tags on them. And when people would call and be like, hey, there's an alligator in my yard, it's yours. Be like, no, it's not. No, it's got a tag. Well,
yeah, and he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt.
It says alligator farm on the crest. Same kind of thing. Just data instead of alligators.
So you think I can call it? How much do you think it's data costs from People Data Labs?
How much it costs?
Yeah.
Buying in bulk, if you buy all 1.2 billion datas.
A lot of them charge for like a monthly access or whatever. What's that leads company? Sunset or Sunrise, something like that. There's a couple of companies that specialize in this. They call them like lead sourcing. And you pay either a monthly fee or a per query fee, so you can query the leads and reach out and contact people. It's kind of a shady business, but it is on the up and up because people agree to all sorts of stuff in end-user license agreements. And, the prices can vary pretty widely on that.
You got to talk to somebody.
You should do that.
No.
Start a whole chat.
All right, let's get to it because we've got a great interview to get to here still. So our next article is over at Ars Technica, case of the $20,000 cookie. HackerOne breach lets outside hacker read customers' private bug reports. Company security analysts sent session cookie allowing account takeover. That's funny. I mean, I guess as a company like HackerOne, you're going to get hacked.
Well, yeah. The embarrassing part here is that they didn't get hacked because their systems weren't secure. They got hacked because one of their employees wasn't secure.
Mm-hmm.
And this wasn't a simple phishing thing. This is a little more complex. There was a hacker who was working with them, who's actually one of their forum moderators or whatever. So, a respected person in their community, who was talking to one of the HackerOne employees. And the HackerOne employee had sent a link over, and in that link, it contained information about their session token. And the hacker was able to use that token to then connect back and basically access bug reports for any other company, which is dangerous because there's a lot of people, even like the U.S. Navy, I believe, is on HackerOne, where in theory, if he could see their bug reports, he might be able to find out about bugs that hadn't been patched yet, right, for customers he wasn't looking at. Now, in this scenario, he responsibly reported it to them. They disabled that access token, and then they didn't really have to work to fix it outright because it was just a mistake one of their employees made. But the hacker even told them, here's what you could do if you tied these sessions to an IP address, then somebody else wouldn't be able to steal it back. So, a little bit of a black eye for them, but they handled it really quick and
2 hours and 3 minutes after the report, they
pretty quick.
They shut down that session key.
Yep. So the HackerOne ended up paying out a $20,000 bounty on this on their own system. So pretty neat that they eat their own dog food.
Yeah, that is cool that they actually admitted it. And I mean, that's what their whole company is based off of. So, I mean, and it looks like it was a white hat hack. And the guy said in the report, I'm just doing this for to show you I didn't, didn't take anything, didn't mess with anything. But yeah, still exposed. All right, our last article for the day is at the register.co.uk, Don's favorite site. Atlassians scrambles to fix zero-day security hole accidentally disclosed on Twitter. Exposed private cert key may also be used, or may also be an issue for IBM Aspera. So we've got another buzzword that we missed today.
And this is another white hat hacker. Mm-hmm. So Swift on security, which you guys might be familiar with.
Taylor Swift.
Yep. Taylor Swift, very, very active in security community. I can't remember the guy's actual name, but so he noticed a odd behavior in one of the Atlassian products, which I've forgotten the name of at this point. Confluence. Okay. So he noticed that it had this like offline mode where it would connect to a domain, which was Atlassian-domain-for-localhost-connections-only.com. And it used a self-signed certificate and self-generated CA to trust that certificate to allow you to access the system when it was in like an offline mode or just, accessing your local session. The problem was you could extract the private key. And if you did that, you could redirect that domain wherever you wanted. And because you had the private key, you could actually stick a trusted certificate on there and you could man in the middle of the hell out of somebody pretty easily using this. Now, the Swift on Security guys had posted a tweet about this, not realizing how dangerous it was. So he didn't go through responsible disclosure, but not because he was being malicious, it was just accidental. But as a result, Atlassian has had to really scramble to get that patched. This issue, they'd actually sort of known about it before, and this was a feature just for backwards compatibility. So they had already told people to like update and get away from that, but now they're having to force that to get that removed. But it shows some of the dangers that software can introduce that you don't even think about. Like we worry about our web server or web browser security and the certificates we trust, but individual applications can have their own trusted certificates too that leave you open to some of these attacks.
I'm glad Atlassian didn't just shake it off.
Yeah.
I want to hit you.
Hey, haters gonna hate.
I know. It's not helping, Peter.
I'm proud of myself. I've actually heard that.
You heard that song? Yeah, that's the only one I could think of.
Yeah.
You disappoint me so much.
But I make myself so proud at the same time. It's very sad. All right, it is time for our interview. We have Yan Zhu, who is going to be joining us from the Bay Area, and for the 1% in Florida, that's not Tampa. That is the Silicon Valley out there in San Francisco, California.
You just sound so old right now.
Yeah. Near the Facebooks, the Googles are out there.
Still near the MySpaces?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's still up in that area. Tom and the whole crew.
Tom Rich.
The Spaces, yeah. But let's do that now. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. We're going to come back with that interview right after this on Technado.
Will you be in or near Gainesville, Florida anytime soon? Then you should come see IT Pro TV. Make plans to visit the studios. Get a tour. Meet your favorite edutainer. See what goes on behind the scenes every day to bring the best of classroom learning to IT professionals around the world. Simply chat with the member services team on the IT Pro TV website and let us know when you'll be visiting. We'll see you soon.
Hello and welcome back to Technado, and we're joined by a very special guest now. We have Yan Zhu, who is the CSO at Brave Software, joining us. Yan, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing really well, and thank you so much for joining us. I know you have like a really active schedule. It looks like you got your hands in a lot of different things with Brave and various projects that you work with. So thank you for taking the time to join us today. So let's get started though with kind of what Brave is for those that aren't familiar with that browser.
Yeah, so Brave is a relatively new web browser. We're available on all platforms, desktop, whatever kind of phone you have, we support it. We started in around 2016 as a browser that's not only focused on privacy and security, but also kind of replacing the revenue model of the web with something that's more user centric and user respecting. So what I mean by that is the web these days is mostly funded by ads, which, as any security person knows, has a bunch of security and privacy downsides. So we're trying to replace that with a more private model of advertising that's more opt-in and with the option for users to pay content creators directly instead of seeing ads. So that's kind of like the high level mission of Brave.
Yeah, and it's funny because I sit with our marketing team here, and so they've got a very different opinion on things than people like Don or Justin that are thinking about security here. So I wanted to just kind of understand, like the very first thing, kind of on the header of Brave's website at brave.com, it says that you can earn rewards by opting into our privacy respected ads. So what is that exactly? How does that work versus the kind of ads where they're, I guess, basically tracking you across all the sites you go to?
Right. So the way ads work at a pretty high level is advertisers build these profiles of you and what you're interested in. So let's say you're interested in cars and houses, and so advertisers' goal would be to figure that out and to show you ads related to cars you can buy and houses you can buy. And the way they do that just kind of today involves putting a bunch of trackers on various websites you're visiting and using that to build an online profile of what your interests are. So Brave Brave, if you opt into Brave ads, changes that model by doing local classification to see what your interests are. So if you notice, your browser actually has a perfect view of what you're interested in because it has a local database that includes your entire browsing history. So kind of the idea of Brave is we should just use that local information to figure out your interests and have that profile for you locally without that ever being sent to any third parties. Um, and Brave also loads the entire ads catalog locally. So in effect, when you see a Brave ad, what you're seeing is a local ad that's served locally and doesn't involve any network requests until you click on the ad and actually go to the landing page for whoever's hosting the ad.
So how does that impact sites like, when you go to CNN's website is littered with ads from a number of different places. So when we use Brave and go there, if we've opted into the Brave ad platform, is it replacing the ads on the web page, or is this displayed a different way?
So it's completely separate. When you go to CNN.com and Brave will block all of those tracker ads because we block ads and tracking by default. And instead, while the current ad experience is like a system notification that appears completely outside of the web page. So what you'll get this pop-up that says like, you have this ad that you can click on or you can not click on. But you can also set the limit to like only show you one of those notifications, like let's say like once every 2 hours. So it's pretty customizable, and it's like completely separate from the web pages that you're visiting.
So you said these ads come down and are served locally. Does that mean when I open the browser, all of those are pulled down immediately and then additional content is loaded when I click, or is that during the install process, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's like roughly every I think it's every 24 hours or every like several hours that we just download the entire ads catalog for your geographic region. So the idea is we don't want to use like network timing information to figure out like what ads you're seeing. And the only way we can prevent that is just by having every single user download every possible ad in their region. So
Now, I'm pretty curious about your role with Brave, because as the chief security officer, for most companies, that would make you responsible for the security of the infrastructure of that organization. But because your company is basically a security product, right? Brave is supposed to be protecting your private data. Are you involved in both sides of that, in securing Brave's network infrastructure as well as testing the security features of the browser itself?
Yeah, I would actually say I am day-to-day more of what normal people would call like a product security role. So I spend most of my time like looking at the browser, reviewing like design decisions and so forth, and like doing code review to make sure that like what we're shipping is in line with the claims that we're making about security and privacy. Yeah, we also have like one person that's like kind of our head of internal infrastructure security and such. So yeah, it's a little bit of both, I guess.
So we kind of went down the ads path first in terms of security. What are some of the other features in Brave that makes it unique? I mean, I know it's still running on Chromium, right? So we're getting kind of the same experience in terms of rendering the sites, but there's some other functionality that makes it a little more secure.
Yeah, so we are, as you said, we are based on Chromium, so we inherit all of the most of the security decisions that Google makes with regards to Chrome/Chromium. We have a few additional ones, like for instance, we preload this extension called HTTPS Everywhere. Actually, we rewrote it all in C++ instead of as a browser extension. But the idea of HTTPS Everywhere is a lot of websites do support HTTPS in the sense that, they have a valid TLS certificate, but they haven't been configured to automatically send users to the HTTPS version of the site. So instead, when you type in example.com, it'll go to http://example.com, and then maybe you'll get like a 301 or a 302 to the HTTPS version. But the problem is when you make that initial insecure request over HTTP, obviously that can be intercepted and man in the middle. So HTTPS Everywhere is just a long list of rules for sites which we know supports HTTPS, but don't automatically go there. So instead, when you type in example.com in Brave, it should just automatically upgrade to HTTPS. And that was actually a project that was started by the EFF several years ago.
Now, does that have to do with Let's Encrypt? Because I know that's something you were involved in with EFF.
So HTTPS Everywhere preceded Let's Encrypt by a few years. But yeah, Let's Encrypt is obviously like vastly increasing the number of sites that support HTTPS on the web. So I would say these are kind of related projects. Like one of them increases the number of sites that have valid TLS connections, and the other one makes sure that you're using those TLS connections when it's available.
You're very active in this space. I want to get your opinion on something. There was an article we reported on a few months ago about how Google was going to stop displaying company names for extended validation certificates. Like on our site or Amazon, where it shows that green box with the company's name to let you know they went through that extra testing. With Let's Encrypt, obviously you don't have that because it's mostly automatically authorized and so on, which is good enough for most people. So there's a opinion right now that extended validation certificates are about to go away and not really be a thing. In your work with Let's Encrypt and others, are you of that same opinion? Are extended validation certificates no longer necessary?
Yeah, I think they're not as useful, honestly, as some people think they are, because there was this one researcher who found that literally all you need to get an extended validation certificate is like $177. So what it really proves is that you have $177 to spend on this certificate issuing process, right? And so a lot of people think like, oh, if you have an EV cert, what it means is like, your bank or you're like a legitimate company like Stripe. But, in reality, it's like TLS. If someone has the resources to get an EV cert, they can do it. So yeah, I think the use is, there is some use because a lot of like low-level phishing attackers won't go to the effort to get this fancy green certificate. But beyond that, I think it's less useful than a lot of people try to make it out to be. And most of the people that have said, please support extended validation certificates in Brave and show that like green bar have in some way been affiliated with CAs, I think. So.
And I think I'm trying to remember if I read this or not, that you guys were integrating Tor functionality into Brave as well?
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, so we actually already have Tor functionality in Brave in the form of Tor private windows. So if you go to Brave and you can say like open a private window or open a private window with Tor on desktop, not supported yet on mobile. And if you open a private window with Tor, then the connections in that window only will be routed through Tor.
Which are you saying that when I open a Incognito tab in Chrome, it's not as incognito as I thought it was? Because this could be a concern.
You've got that worried look.
Yeah, I mean, asking for a friend completely, but I should do that in Brave then?
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing we're trying to address is, a lot of people when they open incognito tabs or incognito windows, they think like, oh, this means the website doesn't know who I am or doesn't see my IP address and my employer doesn't see my IP address. Well, neither of that is true because incognito windows don't do anything to change your IP address unless you're using something like Tor and Brave.
While you mentioned IP address, I don't have a question related to this, but just wanted to share an amazing tweet that you had from a couple days ago. You said you got the best HackerOne report ever. Someone reported that an attacker website can figure out a person's IP address by, quote, gaining local access to the person's machine, then installing Node.js web server and using the IP npm package to get the IP. And I love the comments. I like sat there for 10 minutes yesterday. One of the comments was, that's like breaking into someone's house to get a piece of mail so you can figure out their address. It's like, I just enjoy that. Any other great bug reports or bugs, HackerOne reports that you've gotten?
Oh man, so many. I think anyone who runs a bug bounty just sees so many reports that are just like bogus. I feel like everyone gets one that's like, if I have a TLS certificate for your website, like I can man in the middle it, stuff like that, where it's like, obviously that's true, but you have to first get a TLS certificate. I think Brave gets a bunch, especially that are like, oh, if I can get local access to your machine, I can see your browser history, or I can see your like cryptocurrency wallets. And so we have to say like explicitly, like, no, you can't just say like, if I have local access to your machine, I can do this, because then it's like pretty much game over in a lot of different ways.
Well, you just brought up cryptocurrency. So there's a crypto component built in to the browser as well, where I think you kind of mentioned it a little bit when we were talking about ads, but you can actually pay the content creators directly through a cryptocurrency you guys provide there. How does that work?
Yeah, so we try to not make the cryptocurrency aspect like too prominent to users, because a lot of people are scared of cryptocurrency, or they don't know how to set up a wallet. So on the surface, like we just say like you can pay content creators using Brave, but yeah, under the hood, the way those payments work is that they're done in Brave's cryptocurrency, which is called the basic attention token. And so when users sign up for Brave, they can either, like, if they're technical, they can like buy this token and then use it to pay creators, or we actually can also give them these grants of tokens. And then they can allocate like monthly tips or monthly auto contributions to the creators that they visit the most.
All right. So before the interview, I was thinking, all right, she's the CSO for Brave. Brave's a security browser. It's got a lot of visibility, a lot of eyes on it. That sounds like a pretty hard job. But as we've been talking, there's all these different features that you have jammed in there. And so now I'm changing my opinion from it sounds like a hard job to it sounds like an impossible job. How do you test and maintain all those different features? Because there's new stuff rolling out all the time, right?
Yeah, there is. We have like several different projects going on simultaneously at any given time, to the point where it's hard for me to keep track of what's happening. And obviously, like, I'm not, super deep into all of these, because we have about 100 staff members now. So my team is about 5 people, and the way we work is we kind of have this process called security reviews, where if someone's developing a feature and they think that it could have any security impact, we just say, like, please open a security review and tell us about like what you think the potential impact is, and then we'll like take a closer look at it. So yeah, it's definitely like too much for us to like spend all of our time just looking at every single feature that rolls out, but we try to at least like focus on the things that could potentially have some impact.
And I imagine you get a good bit of community involvement as well, right? That there's, is Brave open source?
Yeah, it's fully open source.
All right, so people are reviewing code, you get bug reports, and are you guys on HackerOne, or?
Yeah, we have a HackerOne account.
Perfect. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about you personally. Like you're a CSO now, but a lot of our listeners are always curious about how people got into their position. And I know you've worked with a number of organizations, but how did you get started in IT? What made you think you wanted to do this for a career?
Right. I think I actually got started as an open source contributor because I didn't study like programming or CS in college. But after I graduated, I kind of became interested in the stuff that like the Tor project and EFF were working on, because it was very related to, like internet privacy and just kind of doing good for people on the web. So I started like volunteering and making open source contributions to the Tor project and EFF. And that eventually led to me being hired by EFF as a full-time staff member, just kind of as a software engineer. And then, from there, I worked on the Yahoo security team for a year. And then I was recruited by Brave when they were like, I think 6 people. So back then when we were a small team, we didn't have roles like chief security officer. It was kind of just like CEO, CTO, and then some software engineers. But as we grew, we kind of started segmenting into like a security team, a DevOps team, engineering, etc. And at that point, I just kind of started to run the security team.
So, what is kind of coming down the line for Brave? I know a few of the features we've talked about, like the Tor tabs and things like that. You've mentioned, not out for mobile yet. So, is that kind of the focus right now? Getting a lot going with mobile, or what's the future?
Yeah, so we're always trying to keep parity between our desktop browser and our mobile browsers. So until recently, a big focus was getting the whole BAT tipping system and content creator reward system from desktop to full support on iOS and Android. And so that's been mostly done now. Another thing we're working on actively is supporting tips on more platforms. So currently, if you use Brave, you can actually tip any YouTube, Twitter, and I think GitHub user and some other platforms. So we want to support more of those, like SoundCloud. Like, what if you could go to SoundCloud and like you hear a song that you like, and you want to give a tip to whoever made the song. So Brave in the future will have a tip button that says like, tip to the SoundCloud creator. So I think that's pretty exciting because a lot of platforms don't support like direct tipping to creators, and so we want to make that possible.
I didn't realize you guys had Brave on iOS, and I'm curious because a lot of the features we've talked about are stuff that Apple doesn't normally allow. Like, don't they force you to use their rendering engine and things like that? How do you guys maintain even close to feature parity on iOS?
Well, so we do have to use like their rendering engine, and that has its own set of limitations. So basically, like you can use their rendering engine, but you can also do a bunch of stuff like outside of that makes the browser more like have its own custom look and have its own special features. So we are sort of limited by Apple, but so far it hasn't been like completely insurmountable. And of course, they also have some restrictions on the App Store, and I think we were like slightly uncertain whether they would approve our app once it had like this cryptocurrency payment system built in, but luckily they did. So I think we're in the clear now on that front.
So if you're watching Technado on YouTube through Brave, go ahead and smash that tip button.
Yeah, exactly.
Set up to come right to my wallet, so we'll be all set there. Thank you for that.
But you're using that Tor.
Oh, crap.
Yeah, that
Tor they can't find me.
Yeah, they can't find you. Oh, wait a minute. That's an Incognito tab.
That's just Chrome. So if people want to go ahead and get the browser, they just head over to brave.com?
Yep, just brave.com.
All right, and how can people connect with you? Like I said, you're pretty active on Twitter. I fell down a rabbit hole. Oh, God, that was rabbit hole. There is a rabbit concert coming up. You'll have to go over to so where is it? It's Bcrypt, right?
Yeah.
BCR.
Like the hash function.
Fantastic. Oh yes, of course. So head over there. Any other ways people should reach you, or any events coming up that they can see you speak at, or anything like that?
So I will be speaking at Enigma 2020. So that's in January 2020 in San Francisco. I don't think I have any other talks coming up, so that's the main one.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much. Like I said, I know you're extremely busy, so thank you for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you. That was great.
Right. Yeah, and thank you all of you for watching, but stay tuned because we have more Technado coming up right after this.
Are you a career changer or a budding tech pro who's looking to start their career in IT? I'm Wes Bryan, and along with my fellow IT Pro TV edutainer Cherokee Boos, we've just shot a new show just for you. Each week, we'll dive into topics to help you launch your career in tech. Watch how to get started in IT on YouTube now. Just head to youtube.com/ITProTV to watch and look for new episodes every Saturday at 9 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time.
All right, welcome back to Technado, and thank you so much to Yan for joining us. That was cool, and I know Justin, you've already downloaded Brave there.
Yeah, I've been playing with it. I had to close it out because it was kind of distracting. So,
Too fun.
Yeah, it was. But I got.
Wait, are you sure you didn't download Brave the movie? Because that is very
Wait a
distracting
minute.
as well.
Is
Redhead.
this the browser's not the Redhead movie?
I was ready to.
Oh
Snowman.
no!
Yeah, I found it on Netflix. I just downloaded it.
Yeah, I was like, I don't Brave.com, whatever. I found it over here. But no, I've been playing around with it. It seems pretty slick. I loaded up a couple of culprits that I find, weather.com, and it was fast, and I could read the weather.
Yeah, we didn't mention it, but they say on their website that it is 8 times faster than comparable, I guess, probably other Chromium browsers, or when they're loading all of those third-party trackers and ads and things like that. So, speed. It's a nice side effect of security. That's good.
Woohoo.
Wow. All right. Don is on board as well. Hey, want to let you know about a couple of things before we let you go. First of all, we do have some webinars coming up. If you head over to itpro.tv/webinars, you can see what's next, which is High Velocity IT, leading your team in a VUCA environment. And that takes place Thursday, December 12th with Joe Peacock. It's 2 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. So head over to itpro.tv/webinars. You can register for that one. You can also check out all of the past webinars we've had. We've also got something a little fun going on here in the month of December when things kind of slow down. If you head over to IT Pro TV, we're also going to be playing Jeopardy live with Don Pizzette as your host and a few of the edutainers here as the contestants. So we're going to be doing that as a live event. That is the 17th of December at 2 p.m. Eastern U.S. time as well. All you have to do for that is head over to IT Pro TV and sign up for a free account, and you can watch that in the live channel. If you're already a member, you've got access to that, and you don't have to pay for that. The live channel is always free for anyone that is a subscriber, free or paid. So definitely check that out. That's going to be a lot of fun. And finally, when you're done with that and you're like, wow, this IT Pro TV thing is great, you can move over to go.itpro.tv/Technado, and there you can sign up for an account with a 30% off coupon code. Also, we have some information there if you would like to get a demo of IT Pro TV for your team and see all the cool business features available. That's at go.itpro.tv/Technado. Well, this was a fun one. That was a really cool interview, and maybe I'll check out Brave too. I mean, my personal information is already everywhere. So,
I suspect that ours is as well, but right, that you shouldn't use that as a justification to continue to spread.
That's true. I like ads though. I like ads.
I do not.
I would point out that you have an iPhone without a headphone jack, so you're already brave.
Oh. Well, they didn't give me an option. I wasn't.
They forced you.
They did give you an option.
Yeah.
They gave you that little dongle that came with it.
Yeah. Well, I just got a drill with a 1/32, I believe.
The headphone jack
it's
is
right
still
under
there.
It's just under there. It's just for waterproof.
Yeah.
You just got to open it back up. So broke the seal off the old iPhone there, and I'm good to go.
I feel compelled to say, don't do this.
Don't do that. After you take your iPhone out of the microwave to charge it.
Yeah.
Do not do that.
Put it in rice and set it on fire.
All right. Done. We apologize for that, but there's still time in time for Christmas to get a new iPhone.
Yep.
11 Pro using Justin's affiliate code, apparently.
I'm waiting for next year. They don't have enough cameras yet.
They don't. I want a thing that's just a sphere and it's just lenses looking at me the whole time.
I saw a funny picture this week because Samsung announced a phone that had like 4 or 5 cameras on the back arranged in a really weird pattern. And so somebody put out a thing. It was supposed to be Samsung's roadmap for camera positioning, and it was a bunch of dominoes. So just more dots each
I
time.
guess a 6 or a 5. All right, well, thank you, everyone, for joining us this week. But come on back next week. We're going to have fun again right here in Technado. See you then.